We've been spending most of our lives living in a grappler's paradise. We have not Solomon, it is Mike Grundy taking on Mr. Finland, Makwan Amirkhani. And for both of these guys, less than stellar in their last and latest runs. And for Makwan Amirkhani, the 5-on-in goes back a very long time.
Not really.
It's not the best, though. If you look at it, he takes on Shane Burgos almost 2.5 years ago. He gets finished in that fight. He beats Danny Henry by anaconda choke. Danny Henry of Hakeem Dawodu fame, I guess. That's all we can say for the Scot in that one. He loses to Edson Barboza. He loses to Camuela Kirk. It was a close fight. And he gets finished by Lerone Murphy in his last fight 4 months ago. That is the 5-on-in for Makwan Amirkhani. He's 33 years old. He has a height and reach advantage in the majority of his fights. Everything is very close in this one. But for Amirkhani, most known for his grappling, and he will go after takedown into exhaustion. And when it gets bad, it gets very bad. But when it's good, it's like when he fights Andy Ogle and finishes him in 8 seconds. Now, for Makwan Amirkhani, a lot of people remember more for the grappling and less for his Masvidal-esque finish from years past. And for Amirkhani, it really was long layoffs, periods of inactivity. That was the telltale sign of his career. If we look at it on the opposite for Mike Grundy, his 5-on-in is much longer than Makwan. Now, a win over Tobin, but 4 years and 7 months ago, he gets that win. He beats Fernando Bruno. That was 4 years, 3 months ago. 2 years and 11 months ago, beats Nathaniel Romani. He loses to Movsar Evloev a year and 7 months ago. He loses to Groovy Lando Venata by split decision 9 months ago. The telling thing for Mike Grundy, you know this. You know how good of a freestyle wrestler he was. He is the 2015 IBJJF European No-Gi Lightweight Blue Belt first place. I'm really digging for that one. And back at the Commonwealth Games in 2014, he was a bronze medalist. But Mike Grundy, if there's anything that you need to know, he's had 3 fights in the UFC. 2 of them went the distance. 1 of them went to 4 minutes and 22 seconds near the end of the second round. That one against Nathaniel Romani. That one was almost 3 years ago. Like, it's been a while since he's been in the UFC. You just don't think about it. Mike Grundy is 0 of 1 in leg kick attempts in the UFC. All he does is wrestle and throw a heavy right hand. And that's it. That's it!
Now, to be fair, that's probably enough to beat Makwan Amirkhani at this stage of his career, because in Amirkhani, you had mentioned it, he got off to such a great start to his UFC career. He was handsome, he speaks well, he's good at interviews, and then next thing you know, he's getting tired in all of his fights, and it's just become an Achilles heel. It's very reminiscent of when Anthony Pettis fought RDA for the title. I know it was very different, the stakes were much higher, but the second people figured out how to fight Anthony Pettis, everybody knew how to fight Anthony Pettis. Pressure him. Try to take him down. As long as you can avoid his Hail Mary arm bars from guard, you're probably going to have a lot of success. Just don't give him range. Well, to fight Amirkhani, it's the complete opposite of that, to be fair. But still, you know what the game plan is. Defend takedowns. Force him to become a lazy striker. Because other than the few explosions he has here or there, would it even be fair to say, I just thought of this comp, you hate it when Merab throws spinning back fists. His stand-up's kind of like Merab's, to where Makwan will throw one Hail Mary, I might get a knockout this strike, and then if he doesn't land it, he gets back to this weird sort of high guard, random Marcos-y type stance, and like you said, shoots for panic takedown after panic takedown, and he is a good wrestler, and he is a really good grappler early on in fights, but it affects him so much when he gets tired. It's like, some fighters can fight well even when they're fatigued. We've seen it Brian Ortega, Alexander Volkanovski, 5th round of their fight. I'm pretty sure both those guys are tired, but they make it seem like they're not because they're so high level. Makwan Amirkhani, once he does get tired, it affects every part of his game. It affects his striking defense, his hands come down. It affects his offensive package because he can't go out and get offensive takedowns. So the second Makwan Amirkhani loses whatever gas he has left in his tank, he really is just a sitting duck, and what you said about Mike Grundy is 100% true. He does load up on his punches. He doesn't have a very wide variety of strikes at all. The fact you said, he's thrown, 3 leg kicks in his UFC career?
He's thrown 1, and he missed on it.
So there you go. He's thrown 1. That's just, you almost have to be making a conscious effort at that point to be I'm not going to be throwing kicks. So I really do think this fight comes down to cardio more than anything, because on the feet, I think both guys are going to be canceling each other out, and it's going to come down to, can Amirkhani take down Mike Grundy? Maybe he can, but I expect his numbers to be 1 for 13, 1 for 12 type numbers, because I think Grundy defensively can keep this fight on the feet to where his strengths are, and then if he decides to wrestle later on, I actually think Grundy can have a lot of success, because we've seen Amirkhani get out grappled in fights that he has fatigued in. he's a bit of a front runner. Let's just call it what it is. Like, when the going's good for Makwan Amirkhani, things are going great. But once he does start to face adversity, we've always wondered this. Like, when the going gets tough, do you really expect Makwan Amirkhani to bite down on the mouthpiece and get tougher?
Well, I'm going to say this. I wouldn't hedge a damn thing with Mike Grundy. The only loss is
right.
Damian Stasiak very early on, and then the last two fights in the Lando Venata fight. Not all losses are the same. So Makwan Amirkhani, the majority of people thought that he beat Kamwela Kirk. So there is that going for Makwan. That could be a dub on his record. Then he's 2-3 in his last 5. For Mike Grundy, against Lando Venata, split decision is the call. 29-28 Venata by one judge. Judge Patrick Padlan, who I've never heard of. Like, you do not hear of Patrick Padlan very often. 30-27 Grundy. And then the third judge scored at 30-27 Venata. On MMA decisions, 15. 30-27 Venata, 5-29-28 Venata, 1-29-28 Grundy. So it is one of those things. He went 3 of 20 on his takedown attempts for 2 minutes and 37 seconds of control time. That's not very good, and he was outstruck 83-34 in that fight.
But in that fight, he was fighting a much more lethal striker.
All Mike Grundy does is just rinse and repeat for takedowns. Against Movsar Evloev, you're going to lose that fight. Movsar is of that ilk. If he fought more often, he would be ranked. Mike Grundy, it's really tough. He's 35. He just turned 35 a couple weeks ago. His younger brother, Jack, just had his first amateur fight. He's going for his second this weekend, so I don't know how the fight's gone so far, but pretty cool to see there. And for Makwan, training out of Loop Martial Arts, the same camp that he had his last fight, also training out of MA Training Center. That's the Makwan Amirkhani Training Center. You don't see him out of SBG anymore. So if we do look at the odds for this fight, they open at par. Grundy minus 137 on best fight odds. The comeback on Makwan plus 112. If we have a look at the Tapology votes, they're surprised to us, they are to you. I'm assuming they're going to be close. I'm going to say 55% Amirkhani over under.
I think I'll say above.
I'm thinking the fan vote's going to be with Amirkhani. Wow. 520 total votes, 69% going with Grundy, 84% have him to win by decision for the 31% that have Amirkhani, 54% by decision, 33% by submission. Mike Grundy, over his career, decision. And then you look at the fight against Damian Stasiak, he did get submitted. But the thing for me when I look at it for Mr. Mike Grundy, he is a wrestling specialist when it comes to his submissions. He's going to try and get you in an arm triangle. He's going to try and get into half guard. He might get it by Darce. There are a lot of those. He does have one by guillotine against Michael Tobin. And again, that finish over Narimani, where if you go back and watch it, Grundy was on skates. But now Narimani turned off the power, and then Grundy got back into it with a left hook, really rocked him, sent him flying. It was a wild finish where he was down in that fight. So this fight, it was actually booked back in 2020, but unfortunately, the fight was canceled. Now we get it in 2022. Matt, I know you love it.
I love it, all right. This is a great fight for Mike Grundy. And not really a guy you'd ever think the UFC would be like, hey, here's a great fight for you. But he's on a 2-fight losing streak. He's 35 years old. He needs a win. We can all agree to that much. They're giving it to Makwan Amirkhani, who hasn't really looked like himself, let's just be honest, in a number of years now.
So, took down Edson Barboza on 3 of 6 attempts.
That's cool. Got lit on fire, too, on the feet. So that's the big thing with Makwan Amirkhani. I don't think he can make Mike Grundy pay on the feet for being such a basic striker. And then if it does come to the grappling, I don't think he's going to be able to grapple Mike Grundy. Maybe I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I will be wrong again. But I do think Grundy, at least physically, is going to be able to stay involved a lot more in these wrestling transitions. And I do expect that midway through that second round, third round, if it is a grappling-heavy fight, well, that's just going to drain Makwan's gas tank even more. So I do like this fight for Mike Grundy.
We've seen a lot of these guys where, they train with so-and-so, and it really is a tough thing to do. But for Mike Grundy, coming out of Team Calbon in Liverpool, Mohamed Mokaev started his career there and then moved to Wigan, and he trains at a KHK MMA and whatnot out of Bahrain with the Kingdom. But when you look at it for Grundy, Tom Aspinall in the main event, Darren Till adjacent as well. A lot of big-time fighters coming in and out of the gym. I do like Grundy in this circumstance because he never stops. But if you like Makwan, maybe he's able to sync up a defensive submission in this one, and that wouldn't be the biggest surprise to me. So in this one, both of us going with Superman never made any money, saving the world from Solomon. Grundy going with Mike Grundy to get the win. You let us know down below in the comments section who you have. We have some big-time fights, including the teammate Tom Aspinall taking on Volkov up at the top. You're not going to want to miss. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, as we always say.
Let's get into it.